We got our main man, Brian Baldinger, presented by our partner, Golden State Lumber, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. Building better starts with Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit GoldenStateLumber.com. It is Shark Week. It is football week. We got a little precursor of what's to happen this football season with college football. Oh, I can't get enough of primetime, Baldy. I can't get enough of my Florida State Seminoles. I can't get enough of college football. And now we get Thursday night with the Chiefs and the Lions, and they're without Chris Jones, and the Lions with this massive offensive line. And oh, by the way, you're heading to the Steel City to watch our Niners take on the Steelers. However, the time is ticking on number 97. How you doing, Baldy? What's going on with you?
Bonte, Joe, it's good to be with you guys. I'm good, man. I'm literally here in Fort Lauderdale watching the Dukies beat Clemson last night.
Wow.
You know, I feel like going down, like literally right down the beach and knocking on Nick's door just to see what's up. You know, like like are you going to put a helmet on Sunday? Are you going to show up in Pittsburgh? I kind of feel like I want to go get the inside information, but business is business. They got to take care of it. Here's what I don't understand, Bonte, honestly, and I'm not here to sit and pound the table for Nick, but obviously, the 49ers just don't look like the same team without him.
They don't.
But, they went and paid Trent Williams, highest paid left tackle. They paid Fred. He was highest paid linebacker for a brief little moment there. They paid Kittle. He was the highest paid tight end until Kelsey beat him out. I mean, you just look, they've got Christian McCaffrey's the highest paid running back by a wide margin. Like, they have agreed that when you are a great player in this organization, they pay you and they take care of you. And I'm sure Nick is sitting back going, wait a second, I just seen all these guys get paid. I just won the Defensive Player of the Year award. We're the number one defense in football. At some point, you just go, what's the fight over? I mean, I don't know. Like, is it only Aaron Donald money? Is that what's holding it back? And is that, that much different than TJ Watt money? We know it's pretty easy to slot him. I just don't think it should be that difficult right now.
Hypothetically, let's say he doesn't play this weekend. What do they look like as a defense without Nick Bosa?
I just think Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett, who had a great preseason, okay. But I think it's just a whole lot easier to operate your offense without Nick in there. You're not as concerned with the variety of protections you're going to have, whether it's the chips, the tight ends, the slides, all the different ways to try to combat him. Look, now maybe Drake Jackson breaks out and, he could do it, but, nobody is going to be better with Nick Bosa not in there. We believe that Javon Hargrave is going to be a factor. We believe Eric Armstead is going to be a factor, but Nick makes everybody on that group and the linebackers that line up behind him, he makes them all better.
No doubt. Maybe, Baldy, you knock on that door and say, hey, Nick, I'm heading to Pittsburgh to call the game for Westwood 1. Right on the Baldy private jet. Let's go. I mean, let's make that happen, Baldy. Just meet the Niners Friday night in Pittsburgh. You bring number 97. Maybe the Niners slip you some dough under the table because this is going to be a tough game to win without Nick Bosa. All right, I know offensive line talk doesn't get ratings in sports radio, but I want to know about the Pittsburgh offensive line. What have they improved from last season? Can they protect Kenny Pickett? Can they open up holes for Najee Harris? Tell us about this Pittsburgh offensive line, Baldy.
Well, they signed Isaac Seumalo to be their left guard from the Philadelphia Eagles. They paid him a pretty good chunk of money. He's a rock. He's just a rock. He makes your center and your tackle better. He was there between Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson for the last 4 years at right guard. He's really smart. He doesn't make mental errors. And then Dan Moore beat out Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones was the 16th player taken in the draft out of Georgia, and he was expected to, come in and win the job. But Dan Moore just said, I saw him training in Dallas this year. He looked fantastic, and he held him off. And I believe Dan Moore is going to start. And so I think they probably have upgraded the left side of their line, and I think the competition, Nate Herbig coming in competing at right guard, center, they're going to use him as kind of a swing center guard right now. So I think through competition and through the addition of Seumalo, I feel like they're going to be a lot better than they were. And they got a quarterback, I think, that really, he's your Brock Purdy. He knows what he's looking at. It's hard to fool him. He goes through his progressions very quickly. He makes good decisions, and he's been very accurate, and he's got a lot of really good targets to throw the ball to. So I think a combination of upgrades on the offensive line and Pickett in year 2, he looks like he's in command from what I've seen so far.
Interesting. It's interesting that you're comparing Brock and Kenny Pickett, because I was going to ask you, who you think the better quarterback is. Not who has the better team or, who's going to put up better, gaudier numbers, but like, who would you rather have on your team right now, Pickett or Purdy, independent of roster?
I think it's crazy. One was the 20th player in the draft. One was Mr. Irrelevant, right? So, but I feel like they're very, very similar. I think they both are athletic enough. You've seen Brock Purdy plenty of times getting away from harm's way, getting outside the pocket, either throwing it away or making a play on the move. Pickett has been doing that. And they both, Pickett started 48 games at Pitt, and Purdy started 47 games at Iowa State. They both played from the freshman years, and they played 4 years together. And then when they got their chance last year, they both played about the same amount of games. I want to say Pickett and Purdy might have started the same number of games. I might be off by a game or two. Obviously, it was different circumstances. But I feel like they're very, very similar from the number of games that they played to how they were recruited to basically how many starts they had as rookies. And, Purdy obviously won every start up until, the championship loss when he got hurt. But, Pickett played really well at the end of the season. Great drives against the Raiders and against Baltimore to go win those games late in the fourth quarter. And so I think they both have very, very similar traits.
No doubt about that. Baldy here on the Morning Roast. He's going to join us every single Tuesday throughout the football season, as he has the last 2 years. Baldy, presented by Golden State Lumber. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit goldenstatelumber.com. This wide receiving core for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, we love Najee Harris. He's from Antioch, California, about an hour away without traffic here in San Francisco. But Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and now Allen Robinson. It's going to be a tough task if you don't have Nick Bosa. Even with Nick Bosa, I think slowing down these wide receivers, big, fast, athletic, Kenny Pickett set up to succeed here in Pittsburgh. Those weapons, they could be elite out there in the AFC. Nobody's talking about it, Baldy.
Let me just throw a couple other names at you. Jaylen Warren is the backup to Najee Harris. Some days I think Jaylen Warren's better than Najee.
Really?
He's a very dynamic player. He had a 62-yard touchdown run in the preseason. Their three tight ends look like the front line for the Golden State Warriors. When you look at Freiermuth, Gentry, and Darnell Washington, they're all between 6'6" and 6'7". I mean, you look at them like they're big, huge targets. All right, and then I would add Calvin Austin, who really didn't play last year, a kid out of Memphis that has got burning speed. And they'll use him in, the fly sweeps and those kind of things. I think, he has a chance to get on the field and make an impact. But I think the addition, really, of Allen Robinson has been really huge. I mean, he's an older guy. He's kind of he's a pretty good adult. He's got a good attitude towards the game. I think he's helped, with George Pickens, who could be a bona fide star in this business. And, if it's 50-50 balls out there, like George Pickens is coming down with them. They've got a talented group right now, very talented.
All right, so let's flip it to the other side of the ball, and we'll get into the matchups and whatnot. But when I think of Pittsburgh Steelers, I think of defense. Just historically, I think of defense. But this particular version of them, I mean, Cam Hayward has been a great player for a long time. T.J. Watt, obviously, most people are going to say him and Nick Bosa, very comparable, even though Watt plays a little more on the outside. And when I think of Minkah Fitzpatrick, Bullhawk, guy just makes plays. They got Patrick Peterson as well. What is this Steeler defense?
Well, they're led, like San Francisco, they're led by their front. So, they've got Alex Highsmith, who had 13 sacks last year, opposite TJ, who got banged up last year. And they got this Nick Herbig, who they drafted out of University of Wisconsin. And honestly, he's like a little TJ Watt. He's like his little brother. He follows him around. They both went to Madison. They're very, TJ's taller. He's probably a little bigger. But Nick Herbig is a handful. He can do similar type things. Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, they're 8 deep on their defensive front. Cam Hayward plays like an obscene amount of plays for a 320-pound man. He almost never comes off the field. He will test your interior, your offensive line. And then they upgraded their linebacking core. Cole Holcomb comes in, and that was a weakness for them. So I feel like defensively it's their strength of their team, but it starts with their defensive front, like the 49ers. But I think they could certainly be a top 10 defense, and they might if they stay healthy and like Porter comes on and really develops like we think he's going to, that they could be a top 5 defense before the season's over.
Wow. So what's the best way to attack this defense, Baldy? Talk about them being 8 deep. The Niners love to run the football. We know they have Christian McCaffrey. What's the best way to attack this defense here?
Well, I think that anytime you can run the ball at a defense like that with any effectiveness, when you can run the ball at a defense, nothing breaks down a defense faster than that. Like I would expect them to try to pierce them in the middle, between just their outside zones and inside zone type plays with McCaffrey and with Mitchell. I mean, that's the first place you want to try to attack them. Because the last thing you want to do is get into 3rd and longs and let those guys really tee off on you. So that's one. And then I feel like you've got to test these corners, whether it's Levi Wallace or it's Porter. Like I don't think, like I talked to some of the guys this offseason when I went to Latrobe, Pennsylvania this year. And, you just wonder with some of the age of some of the guys they have, like the guys that you mentioned,
right.
Just are they still able to hold up right now? Mm-hmm. Can they still play at a high level? And so that's I would want to test them on the perimeter with regularity in this game.
So I'm looking at the 49ers right now, and everybody's waiting to see what Christian McCaffrey does in terms of, part 2. Like, what does he do with a full offseason? What does he do when he actually has a bye week? What do you think are reasonable expectations for Christian McCaffrey this year?
Hit the field running, Joe. Like, hit it running. Like I said about the Kansas City Chiefs, they have a really hard training camp in Kansas City. And on Thursday night, they're not going to wait and see what the offense looks like. They know what the offense looks like. They expect to go out and execute at a high level. I feel like Christian McCaffrey and this offense, they know what it's supposed to look like. I don't think some teams need a couple games under their belt before they hit their stride. Like, it would just shock me if the 49ers aren't sharp on Sunday. Period. Like, I don't care if they didn't play in preseason. Like, I just feel like when you have Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and Debo and these guys and Kittle, we'll see what Kittle's, status is and how healthy he is. But, I expect this group to go out there and execute. It doesn't really matter who's playing for Pittsburgh and what their names in the back of the jersey are. This offense should execute at a high level. And I expect McCaffrey, I don't know if there's numbers, Joe, that, back this up, 5 yards a carry, 14 touchdowns. I don't know what the numbers are, but I expect him to play at a very high level right away.
You talk about this defense, Baldy, possibly being top 5 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we look at that loaded AFC, Kansas City that you're talking about, Buffalo, the Jets, the Dolphins are going to have something to say. I think Baltimore may be really good with this revamped passing game. We'll see. Of course, Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But when it's all said and done, are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to be that team maybe in the Final Four where, boy, we didn't talk about them in the preseason because I feel like they are really flying under the radar. I really like this roster. And, of course, we all remember who Mike Tomlin is. He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, but, he hasn't won a playoff game in a long time.
2016.
I think 2016, right, Joe?
Yep,
yeah, 7 years.
That's
Wow.
a long time.
7 years.
You can say, okay, never losing season, great coach. There's people in Pittsburgh that are like, all right, this is it. Like, we don't go to the playoffs this year. We don't win a playoff game this year. Like, we got to make a change. And so, we know how stable the Steelers are. But, there's a lot of chatter in Pittsburgh about, we're not winning playoff games. Like, okay, so we're the Steelers, but we're not doing anything. And it's true. And so I feel like Cincinnati's still the class of the division. Nobody knows what Cleveland's going to look like completely. New defensive coordinator. How long does it take for Deshaun to, get in gear and go? I don't like Baltimore's defense at all right now. Their corners were all beat up in preseason. I don't see the pass rush right now. I just don't see a great Ravens defense. Maybe Lamar makes up for it. Maybe Lamar's all world. We got to see. They're relying on, a young player in Zay Flowers and the health of an Odell Beckham Jr. That's a lot to rely on. But I feel like Pittsburgh is that team second to Cincinnati in that division right now. And I feel like it's going to be between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati to see who brings home the bacon and who represents the AFC North right now.
Who's the guy on the 49ers that we aren't talking about that maybe we should or will be as the season progresses?
I don't know. I think maybe Drake Jackson. Usually most defensive linemen, if they're going to make a jump, the biggest jump they make between their freshman season and the rookie year, it's between the rookie year and their second year. And we saw flashes of Drake last year. We recognize he's got really good athletic ability. He can bend. He's got good effort. I just think if Drake Jackson is going to be a player that is going to be that next guy in line with the 49ers to really affect this, this group, I think that's the guy. I think that's got to take off.
Brandon Ayuk. I thought you would go with that one, Baldy. Brandon Ayuk in this weaponry here, he's looking to get paid, Baldy. I don't know. Do we still have Baldy? Did he cut off?
I'm here. I'm here, guys. I hear you. I just lost the picture.
Oh, okay, all good. Brandon Ayuk, what about him offensively for the 49ers? Because I feel like that's the guy. Well, Debo looks like he's in great shape, but we know the attention he's going to attract, the gravity that McCaffrey has there on the offense, and we know who Kittle is. But Brandon Ayuk, what about him, Baldy?
Well, I thought Ayuk, I didn't think that would be a surprise guy. I thought what we saw for Brandon Ayuk second half of the season last year was what he is, a great route runner, dependable player, could be a number one if you take certain things away, a guy that you have to game plan for. I just think Brandon Ayuk has arrived. And so, I just think that's a guy that I think we're all counting on right now in San Francisco to put up numbers, to change games, to, whether it's the second corner that's trying to take care of him or cover him or whatever. He's a guy that can beat just your number one corner the way that he plays.
Week 1, opening kickoff, opening week in the NFL. Baldy, you played in this league at a high level. You've been calling games for a long, long time. You've been around this league for, over 40 years, it feels like. Tell us about week 1 preparation, going into the opening weekend of the NFL season.
I don't know if there's any week all year where players and coaches have more butterflies. Did we do enough? Are we prepared? Are we prepared for all these situations that can arise? I feel like everybody, I don't care if you're Andy Reid. I think everybody, and Patrick Mahomes, I think everybody has more butterflies this week, this game, than in any other game all year. A lot of teams haven't played their players in preseason. Nobody's played 4 quarters of football. The conditioning. Are we in condition enough? Do we have the right depth? Is our roster complete? You won't know some of those things until you get into the fourth quarter of some of these games. I don't know what the temperature is going to be like in Pittsburgh this weekend, or if you're playing, in the South this weekend. The temperature is going to be a factor. It always is in September. And so I think all those parameters out there make people, and then just the emphasis everybody puts on the first week. The sky isn't falling no matter what happens. We've seen plenty of teams rebound.
Yep.
But there's so much put on this first game that I feel like this is the week that everybody has the most just uncertainty about who they are.
All right. So when I think of football in September, I think of the smells. And the reason why I go that way is you go into that parking lot, and for us, Levi's Candlestick, you start walking through, and there's just a smell. There's a football smell, barbecue, and just the beer, and just there's a smell. You know what I mean? And I have this feeling of me waltzing through tailgates, checking out what everyone's cooking. I've never been to Pittsburgh. I know you have. Walk me through what a Pittsburgh tailgate feels like, smells like, tastes like.
Well, there's a lot of meat being cooked. A lot of meat. All right. A lot of Iron City beer. A lot of terrible towels. A lot of memorabilia of famous Steeler franchise teams, whether it's the bus helmet, just iconic players, iconic numbers, Joe Green jerseys. It is all black and gold. There isn't another color that is allowed. anywhere near the Confluence on game day in Pittsburgh. And it is not a late arriving crowd like some places. They are in their seats and the towels are waving for the opening kickoff. But the build up to that, there's 3 rivers that flow into Acrisure Stadium now, into the big ketchup bottle, whatever you want to call it. There's 3 famous rivers. There's the Ohio. There's the Allegheny. There's the Monongahela. And you have to be able to pronounce all that stuff, and you have to know those things. Those are all physical traits of Pittsburgh. And they're all coming on one of those bridges. They're coming through the Fort Pitt Tunnel. It's like going to downtown Rome. It's like going to Rome, on a big day and a big battle.
Wow.
And that's kind of what it feels like.
Stroganoff is the Pittsburgh dish, from what I understand.
Yes, that is that's a staple.
Yeah.
That's a food staple right there. They have their versions of heroes and hoagies.
Gotcha.
That will also be sliced up and cut.
I want to go to Pittsburgh.
Well, it's like one of the more
There's
iconic
pierogies.
teams.
You're going to have pierogies, these potato things dipped in hot burning oil, coming out and throwing some pierogies back.
What time you get to the stadium, Baldy? About 4 hours before kickoff?
At least, yeah. I want to get in the stadium early. I want to get in there 9 hours before, 4 hours before for sure. I want to be. I want to get in that stadium and I want to see the thing fill up. I want to get down the field and get to as many players and coaches as I possibly can before kickoff. It's going to be tough to sleep on Saturday night. There's no question.
Yeah. I got goosebumps right now. I hear you break it down. Now I'm having regrets, and I'm flying out to Pittsburgh to see that grass, to see those yellow seats, to see those terrible towels, the Franco Harris jerseys. Oh, my gosh. Going to be a scene out there in Pittsburgh. And, Baldy, we'll talk to you all about it next Tuesday, man. Week 1. It's finally here. It starts Thursday with those Detroit Lions and that offensive line and that smash-mouth running game and Jared Goff throwing the ball around against the defending Super Bowl champs and the Kansas City Chiefs. Football's back, baby. Football's back, and all our lives are better for it. Baldy, we'll talk to you next week, brother.
Thanks, Bonte. Talk to you, Joe. Have a great week.
The best.
You too.
Do you know what